Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It is your boy, the one and only, the Road Dog, here again with the big man himself. He is back in black. Big shooter, the King, Karl Bryan. How are you, buddy?
Yo, big shoots. How goes it, Road Dog? What's happening, bud?
You know what, man? Life is good. Life is good. Yeah, just doing addition through subtraction, as they say, and starting to eliminate some things out of my life to allow me to get more clear focus, which no one that I know would be happier to hear that than you, probably, because you are Mr. King of there should be no side hustles until you are, what's the magic dollar amount? $1 million bucks? What do you say all the time?
Well, so multiple streams of income. It hits 5 million with one stream of income, which is roughly 400 grand a month. And then talk to me about your multiple streams of income, because someone who's telling you about their 7 different businesses has got multiple streams of income, but they have multiple lame streams of income. That is my opinion. And of course, somebody will give me the anomaly. Very, very seldom, by the way, can they successfully do that. But that's what I say, shoot. Hit 5 million and then talk to me about your multiple streams of income.
I caught that. So it's not the main streams, but the lame streams of income. Is that what
yeah. Shoot. Oh my God, I love it. Damn, we got to write a book, shoot. There you go.
There it is. Yeah, all royalties will address our retirement funds on in the beaches of Mexico. So there you are, bud. There you are. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to dive right in to a bit of a hot topic. And for all those wondering, why is Karl going to start barking like a dog here from time to time today? COVID. So
I got it, shoot. I got the vid, man. I got the vid, but I'm good now.
There it is.
Now. I'm laughing.
So why don't you share with us your thoughts and or experiences, which could be a touchy subject for some, especially especially for me. But anyways, let's go ahead, bud. What do you got to say?
Well, I don't know what to say. Look, I'm fine. You know what? I made it. I'm here to. Dude, we had a week off, by the way. If somebody's wondering what happened last week, we had a bit of a week off. I wasn't feeling the best, but I did live. I can tell you that I had plenty of time to sit back and contemplate, and think about the world. I got to tell you one thing that I'll tell you. Here's my moment, Road Dog. I've been thinking a lot about the power of habit, right? Like I wasn't able to go through my normal routine. You know what I mean? Pretty obvious, right? I was laid up a little bit. And it's like, like you want to create good habits in your life, right? And then, by the way, what do you think of? You think of good habits and it's, working out each morning, stretching for 30 minutes on any given day or every day. Ideally, everybody should be doing that. Always eating at 6 p.m. with the family. Maybe at the end of your workday, you're emptying your inbox, right? That would be a good habit. But here's something that I think is powerful, and it comes back to in an inverse mental model. That's like very powerful technique is to write down your 3 worst habits, right? So everybody tries to create this. Think of the dream board, and they got the Lambo and the 6-pack and the big house and the beach front house, whatever it is, right? The exact opposite of that is significantly more powerful. And it brought me to these habits. And I was like, you know what? I was looking at what are some of my bad habits? And then I was like, so if everybody, got well and truly in tune with their worst habits, and then they tried to, say, eliminate one, the power of that could be immense. And for every individual, it's going to be different, right? Like one guy, it's a few drinks every night and a few too many drinks every night, maybe. Another person, it's the fact that, they don't go to bed until late, and then they don't, and then they sleep in. That's got an adverse effect on their income and their ability to operate at a high level, or maybe just puts them in a bad mood, don't get enough sleep. Not getting into the office until noon, just lollygagging. Maybe it's watching TV. It's lollygagging, whatever it is, right? But again, if that's a bad habit, and that's one that shows up semi-consistently, disappearing. Like, let's say, there's a certain amount of work that needs to be done in the kitchen. And logically that would be before dinner and then after dinner, right? Like, or do you conveniently slip out, and then that really pisses off your wife, and then that's got second, third, fourth order consequences attached to it? Maybe that's it. But the bottom line is having a look at what, your habit. You've got good habits, but then you've got really, really bad habits. And I'm going to say that you would be better served. Your clients would be better served. You and I, Road Dog, would be better served by identifying our worst habits and then eliminating those. And putting your head in the sand and pretending like they're not there is not a good idea, right? Like, and another thing, just being acceptful of what's here. Like, COVID is here. I probably did a little more homework on the whole thing than I probably should have, because quite frankly, it stressed me out a little bit, if I'm totally honest with you. Look, there's some stuff coming, like mandated vaccinations. You're for it, you're against it. I got to tell you, just maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but mandated vaccinations, like, they're going to be coming up. Forget that. Hyperinflation, right? Hyperinflation is already starting to affect you. Just try go build a deck and let me know how that goes for you. You want an example of hyperinflation? Like, hyperinflation is coming. So, to put your head in the sand, not a great idea. Stocks, there is going to be I think there's going to be a downswing in the stock market. I think that it's inevitable. I've been talking about that for a while in different ways. That is going to lead to consumer spending being way down. The two are that's the way it's going to go, right? The two are correlated. So therefore, like, if these things are happening, what can you do? Do some homework. And then, how do you go about protecting yourself? And how do you go about setting yourself up for success as a result of those things that are going to be coming? But more to the point, Road Dog, I got COVID. I was laid up. What did I think about? What did I do? I went to, my regular routine, which then I identified as a series of habits. And then I noticed I had some really good habits, and then I've got some bad habits. And I thought, damn, if everybody just looked at their habits and you took your top three and then you eliminated one, and then maybe you eliminated all three over a period of time, you'd be well served. But Road Dog, I got COVID. I'm here to talk about it. Not a lot of fun, Shoots. Not a lot of fun, but what can you do? What can you do?
Well, there you go. Not a lot of fun. There's a joke sitting there right there on a T-ball for me, but I'm going to not touch that one this time around. Cool. Well, you know what? We're all happy to hear that you're doing better. I know I did my part of checking in on you on a day-to-day basis as best as I could.
Shoot. Thank
you. There it is, my friend. Good to hear that you are doing. You still sound a little. Does the wife like the deeper voice? Is this helping you, or what's happening here? Is she digging the raspy voice?
Can't get enough of the raspy, KB.
Right?
I love it.
There it is. There it is. That is Karl talking. He's not he's not a space alien like Elon. So anyways, back to business. So we've got obviously a stockpile of questions. We've got a couple of weeks worth here, but we will do our best to dive in here. But the first question that came up is all about culture. And so the question reads, how do you create culture within a business when coaching them? So I guess I'm really curious on that too, because it's something that I've never done. I've never bothered to try and disrupt a culture, but it's a very interesting question. So how would you answer that, Karl? How do you create culture within a business when coaching?
Coaching them. Uh, okay, and I like the fact that you say that you haven't done that, right? Again, I give you a semi high five on that. Well, I don't know that it's a high five, right? No doubt, this is something that can be combated, but it's strategic, right? So I wouldn't start there, is what I would say. Progress equals happiness. So I'd be getting some runs on the board early with your client. I try to show them a positive return on investment, and then move into stuff like culture at, maybe it's 90 days, maybe it's 6 months, it might be at the 2-year mark. But if you do it too early, you can lose your client if it's not set up properly. And then if, somebody was listening and they were a non-experienced coach, I would dare say your chances of setting it up properly would be remote. So this is something you might want to do on the latter part of your relationship. And in other words, get tactical and hit some singles early, as opposed to let's refer to culture as like a home run. I've said this a lot, Road Dog, but I think it's really important. Like, as a framework, find a way. Like, let's say you charge $2,000 a month, so that's $24,000 a year. You want to find a way to fight tooth and nail to realize the $24,000, for you and your clients, and then recognize that. Don't run over the top of it. Don't be crazy and not acknowledge it. And then what you do is you point to it and you say to your client, like, basically, congratulations, I'm free for the rest of the year. We just put $24,000 into your bank account, and we're 8 weeks into this, we're 12 weeks into this, whatever. So congratulations, I'm free. That conversation can change everything, and make it your mission to basically get to that point, right? That being said, culture matters, and let's not pretend like it doesn't, because a great culture is made up of great people, and great people that are led, like great people, A-grade people, and talent. Okay, so A-grade people that we would measure as A-grade, okay, we would call talented. They love to be measured, right? So think about this: salespeople are found, not created. Therefore, and also, great staff members are found and not created. So most people hire for 3 things: skills, tasks, and experience. Okay, so they hire for 3 reasons: skills, tasks, and experience. Whereas a psychological profile will be 1,000,000 times more important when you're trying to bring in A-grade players. And remember, A-grade players lead to an A-grade culture, right? So how do you do that? Like, if I was interviewing somebody, I would talk to them a little bit about their past experiences, right? Like open-ended questions, and get them to talk. Like, what sport did you play, Road Dog, right? You played rugby, you played football, you were a really good snowboarder, right? So like, I would talk, did you ever have a snowboarding teacher that was really hard on you, right? Or did you ever have a teacher in school that you really, that was really hard on you? And then you'd say, yeah, no doubt I would find, you would say yes to something, right? And then I would say, Road Dog, talk to me about that. And your answer will be really, really telling, because how did you respond? Do you hate that person to this day? Or do you look back and think, gosh, that person, that was an absolute blessing in disguise. I didn't realize it at the time, and I hated it. But in the end, that's the person that got the most out of me. When I look back at my teachers, that's the one that I like the most, because although they were hard on me, they got the most out of me. I think it's pretty obvious, right? But where I'm going there is psychological profile is so important. And again, the mistake that your clients make, the problem that you might be making, is that you're hiring for skills, tasks, and experiences. And this is not necessarily that's not a winning strategy, right? And here's the kicker: every sport, every event, every competition, the Olympics just went by, right? Every event in the Olympics, every game show, they all have one thing in common, right? What are they? Rules. If you didn't know what the rules were for hockey, how could you ever win the Stanley Cup? If you didn't know what the rules were, black and white, for football, how could you ever get to a winner of the Super Bowl, right? So like people leave companies and they get fired and they say, I didn't know what was expected of me. When in an exit interview, this is what is ridiculously common. So you gotta lay down rules and you gotta lay down some, like, and if you don't, and some people are a little adverse to the word rules, like, oh, it sounds too regimented, this, that, and the other. Think of it as a playbook. Think of it as roles and responsibilities, but I'm talking about tight ones. And that, so what I'm getting at is you're trying to create culture within a company. If you show me the roles and responsibilities of each of their staff member, or you show me if you show me the playbook for their company, I will be able to show you how easy it is for them to build an excellent culture. And if they don't have it and you help them create it, you are going to help them elevate their culture in a very real and tangible way. And I don't think that most are talking about this. This is the hack on steroids for building culture within a company. And the benefactor, or the second, third, fourth order consequence of that, the good news is that you can create a client for life, and somebody who really starts to nail it. And you should be doing this in your your personal relationships, your personal life, and your own business, as in creating these rules. Even like investing, right? Like I like topic of investing. We talked about it, Road Dog, hundreds of times over the course of the podcast here. And it's like amateur investors invest with their hearts and emotions, as in like the hot tip by the cab driver, the neighbor. But that's Bitcoin 101, right? The red hot tip. Professional investors invest with rules. Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, the best of all time, they invest with rules. So successful businesses operate with rules otherwise, or otherwise stated is that, businesses operate with rules, right? Look, amateurs think of what could go right. Pros think of what could go wrong. Okay. So another way of wording that is asymmetries, which you should look up and really understand, but you're looking for those little door hinges that swing the big doors. What's the small things that you could do that could create, a big swinging door, like an absolute home run. So that's it. And maybe an example, right? Like if I were to buy or invest in a company, basically you say, okay, well, do you have some rules for that? Or do you have a playbook? And so basically, let me just give you 6, right? So these are committed to memory well and truly, but you should think about maybe writing these down and thinking about that for your client. When we talk about multiple streams of income, look, having a synergistic business to run alongside the one that you're currently running. I mean, this is a good way to operate a business, and you can do that through acquisition, and you can build from the ground up. But what are some rules that I would have around basically buying a company? One would be existing demand, right? Very straightforward. If there is no demand, you don't have yourself a great business, so forget it. 2 would be a good management team, right? Again, it's the jockey over the horse all day long. Number 3 would be barrier to entry. So think of a moat, right? That's something to stop others from entering the space. That's why I love building software, because I know that nobody, like if somebody doesn't have $1 million to invest, there's no chance they're competing with us. The end. So that immediately rules out 97% of the other, coaches, quote unquote, right? So that would be number 3 is a moat. Interestingly, I'm working with a heavyweight mentor right now, and what we are working on and where he starts with us is moat, 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 moat. He's like, show me your moat. What's your moat? Let's improve your moat. Like basically it's all about moat. And then there's pain of disconnect. Again, I want recurring revenue as a foundation. So pain of making it difficult for people to exit. Number 5 would be a good idea. Notice that that's not number 1, where most people would start there. It has to be a good idea. It's got to be credible. And then number 6 would be minimal risk, which would be asymmetries, which is why I'm kind of ripping on this. Minimal risk, in that anything we put in should be on the low end of everything going sideways, that we're not going to take huge bath, but asymmetries dictate that with the minimal risk, the potential upside is just through the roof. So to make sure, okay, rules that I would follow, 1 would be existing demand. 2 would be a good management team. Number 3 would be a barrier to entry, or think of that as a moat. Number 4 would be pain of disconnect. It's making sure you got recurring revenue and a model that people can't just come and go as they please. Number 5 would be a good idea, something future paced. Probably falls into number 1 and number 5 might be correlated or are correlated. And then number 6 is minimal risk. But understand that number 2, a good jockey, as in a good management team, and number 6, minimal risk, are critical importance and non-negotiable. So what do you think, Road Dog? So you want to create culture within a company, kind of riff there a little bit, but rules, and more rules. And if rules are something that, don't come naturally or freak you out or freak your client out, and that will happen, by the way, that could be like a trigger word. Just think of a playbook. But the better the rules, the better you're going to be. There you go. What do you think, Road Dog? You like it?
Yeah, rules. You nailed it right there, bud. That's a trigger word for me for sure. I hate rules, always have. But for me, I put it as a frame, right? What's the framework? It's funny that you mentioned that. I literally just created a bit of a frame for anything that I'm going to be posting online in terms of business content. And here's the rules I came up with this morning. So you tell me what you think of this. This is the standard. There's 4 things. Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it documentation and not fabrication? And does it take a stand? So those are my 4 rules, my 4 frameworks.
Give me list them again, please.
Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it documentation and not fabrication? And does it take a stand?
Yeah, boom. There you go. And
right? Not bad.
Yeah, I like it. And then maybe just standing, we've talked about this 100 times, but standing against versus, depending upon what is the goal, because then what's the goal? And the goal is obviously to get some traction, to get some engagement, etc. Right? And standing against is always going to be more powerful than standing for, and that might, as a general framework, to think of the gloss over the top of that, could increase your engagement. That's all. I like it.
There you go. Hey, listen, you mentioned something in that, and I just want to backtrack on it. I know that this is, I've got to get to the next question here, but I just want to circle back on this in a non-Jen Pansky sort of whatever her name is, circle back sort of a way. But anyways, so you made the point here of when you get the first 24K, let's just say, if somebody's coaching fee in the first 8 whatever weeks, right?
Yep.
Isn't it tempting to just sort of want to take it because you know that they're going to forget about that, right? Like, aren't they? Like 3 months down the road, they've long forgotten that you made them that money. Like, how do you see where I'm going with this? It's sort of like, how do you get them to sort of keep that top of mind that, like, hey, technically I'm free. I realize you got to pay your invoice this month, but it'd just be tempting to be like, cool, we just made you 24K. How about you just pay me out for the rest of the year and we're good? Which also
so that's
going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, don't expect them to remember it. It's what did you do for me lately? That's just the way it is. But that being said, it's a bit like when a framework when you bring it to their over the course of the next, let's just say you did it in 3 months. Over the course of the next 9 months, have how a good comedian, what they'll do, think of Eddie Murphy, Delirious. He had his mom's shoe, and then he would just grab the shoe and then whip it for the rest of the 2-hour Delirious, and you knew exactly what he was talking about and he was referring back to it. So you do use it as a little bit of an anchor point, right? And then you continually circle back without being too, if you do it too much, then it's just stupid. But again, you gauge and you'll get better at it, but create a little bit of an anchor with it, like a story. And I'm going to use the word framework for some reasons, but you know what I mean? Like you got this framework, which remember when we did X right? And then remember, that's when we covered the 20. Remember, we covered 24 grand in the first 90 days of working together, right? Like, high five. That was pretty cool. Okay, well, what I want to do with this project is I want to use that same framework. I don't know, something like that. But you see the way I conveniently came back to it, because I didn't just make it some off the cuff, run over the top, conversation. I mean, I want to create a story and an event and I want to create an anchor. I want to create an anchor story to that event of acknowledging that I covered my fees in 90 days. And then I come back to it like Eddie Murphy's mom's shoe. That's what I'd be doing. And again, but don't overdo it. Otherwise you're going to look a bit weird, but that's what I would do. And you could ask for your fees up front, but that's not what I would do. I'd be asking for, you want to know another one? Here's a kicker. What most people do is they ask for a referral on they've got, again, a framework and they've got, okay, so on the, at the end of this, we ask for a referral. The time to ask for a referral is when there's a home run. That's the call that I'm asking for a referral on, right? And then who's an ideal referral? Who do they do business with, before, during, and after? Because you see, when they grow, like let's say that you've got a carpenter and he does renovations on houses. Okay, well, there's a guy that he buys all the wood from. Well, the guy who he buys the wood from, if that guy can buy better and buy in bulk and learn to store the wood better and to have a better tracking system, well, he's going to be able to, he's going to be a better supplier for him. And who knows that he might be able to end up getting discounts because the guy's operating at a higher level now. The bottom line is that there's a lot to win by him doing well. And then not to mention that if the guy sells wood, there's going to be some referral business there for the carpenter as well, right? So bottom line is that you ask for a referral. Think of it as a state more than on call 3. So you hit a home run. This is when you ask for a referral and you get them at a significantly higher level than, again, using a framework of call 3 or the specific time, like day 90. That's a mistake when you're asking for referrals. So there you go. That help?
One thing that I did, Karl, and I still do is, when referrals is part of something that, I coach, I'm sure you coach, everybody does, right? In terms of how to ask for better referrals and how to properly ask and all this other thing. So I actually did it over a series of 3 to 4 weeks, is what I do it. And I will, everybody always does the standard, hey, if you know anybody, I really appreciate it, right? And you and I both know never works, right? Very rarely does that ever work. So after asking my clients 2 to 3 times, I'll go, okay, so today we're going to talk about referrals. And it's just so funny. I'll never forget one of my clients when he caught exactly what I was doing. He's like, oh my God, you've been trapping us for the past couple of weeks to prove to us that the way that we're asking doesn't work. And it's exactly, right? It's just, so I'd set the frame early for them to realize that they needed me to help them with that part. So that was something that I did there. And I just have to point out, obviously you must still be having some sort of brain fog because you went through talking about Eddie Murphy without one singular reference to Coming to America 2. So this is something else right there, because that's a home run movie for you, Big Shoes. I'm sure you watched that probably 3 times over the past week.
Buddy, I've seen that movie. It's one of my go-tos now, man. When I'm lying in front of the TV and I'm like, I just got to get to sleep. Boom, I hit Coming to America 2 on Prime. I love that movie, man. I thought it was freaking. Have you seen it? You hadn't seen it.
I have not. No, I have
Come
not.
on, dude.
Forced me to do this. Okay, listen. Next question. This is a 2-parter, and so they're 2 separate questions, really, in my opinion. But maybe, hey, what do I know? The question is, if you were helping someone start a business, where would you concentrate and where would you spend money? Number 1, and then where would you spend your money if you're just getting started as a coach? So, is that Is that similar, like in terms of where, because again, we are as a coach, maybe that's something right there too, right? A lot of coaches don't treat their coaching like a business. That's probably a whole nother rabbit hole that you can go down. But are those the same? What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. Okay, so basically, just if somebody was starting a business, where would they spend the money, and then where would they spend the money if they were starting as a coach? That's it.
Yeah.
Two part. Okay, so well, okay, I always think that just dummying things down to first principles, which is what everybody should, that's what somebody should do. I'm starting up a company. I just go to first principles. And what is that? Look, you got a product, a service, or an experience, right? You're selling one of the three. And question is, which one for you, right? The mistake that people make is they go, we talked about this to death, but we'll cover it very quickly. The mistake that they make, the mistake that your son, daughter, aunt, uncle, dad, brother might make is that they think of they want a good idea. Hey, Road Dog, is this a good idea? Hey, Road Dog, is this a profitable idea? Right? You do not start companies with ideas. You need to solve a problem, right? So change your spidey senses, help them change their spidey senses, going from idea, better mousetrap, to solving a problem. And then the more people that have the problem, and then the more that you could kind of throw a net over the people with that problem, and then how big is the problem, and then how much are they willing to spend to solve the problem, will kind of dictate whether, again, you're going to have yourself a bumper business or just like an average one. So where would you spend the money? So look, not branding, that's for damn sure. Mistake people make, they spend all their time on their bloody, on the logo, or the name of the company, like as though like that matters and anybody really cares. Huge mistake. And then building their website, right? We've all met somebody who spent 30 grand starting a company and hadn't made a sale yet. In some cases, it could be, have $1 million and they still haven't made a sale, and they don't realize that they don't solve a problem. If you watch Shark Tank or those types of shows, you'll see that all of the time. But okay, here's what I would, and again, understanding that each situation will have its own, nuances. But here we talk about framework earlier, Red Dog. This is what I do. I buy ideal clients, right? So my metaphor for that is that if I needed bread and milk, okay, and let's assume I had a credit card and I had $20 in my pocket, what are the chances of me being able to come home in less than 30 minutes with bread and milk? And you'd say, bloody good. Why? Because I buy it. I'm not looking to barter. I'm not looking to make a deal with the dude behind the 7-Eleven counter. I whip out my credit card. I whip out my cash. I walk myself to the bread and the milk, right? I grab it and then I pay for it. So I really encourage anybody listening that wants to help somebody start a company, and again, this Road Dog, if this is a business coach or this is just a normal business, this is what I'd be doing. I'd be buying ideal clients. Okay. So you push me and say, okay, well, give me an example. Like I get it. Of course, I would love to be able to buy customers the same way that I buy bread and milk at 7-Eleven. I'd like to be able to buy clients, right? So this is what I have done. This is a little more aggressive than what some people want to, are willing to do, but that's for you. What I'm about to say, I've done to the tune of, I've made millions of dollars doing this, right? The end, mic drop, conversation over. I go to the chamber, okay, and there's a gal working there and she sells the most memberships, right? I find out it's real easy to work out who the number one salesperson is at the chamber, okay? I want to build a relationship with that gal, okay? Go to first principles, okay? And I can tell you that she makes about 25 grand a year, right? Well, if she went to 7-Eleven and she bought a lottery ticket and she won $1,000 or $3,000, that would be a very, very big day. She would be in such a good mood. It would blow you away. She would call her husband. She would call her sister. She would call her kids. She'd be like over the freaking moon, right? I bought a lottery ticket, cost me $3 and I won $1,000, right? So I go to her and I pay her. And you got to do this. You got to build a relationship, and you need to. If you do this too aggressively, you just look weird, and you could come back and bite you on the butt, right? So you got to do this with some semblance of strategy. But I pay her at that. So I establish a framework. I can find anybody $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. So tell me, Lucy, who works at the chamber, what do you find? What do people say? What do people do? That buy memberships. Why do people buy memberships? Would you, Lucy, buy a membership? Why would you? And if you wouldn't, what would you expect the chamber to add? Like, you know what I mean? Like you're listening to her and you want to get inside Lucy's head to understand what she's thinking. Well, again, what she's going to say is, oh, look, I'd probably buy a membership. I think we provide more value. A lot of the people are, they're struggling to build their businesses because they don't really know how, blah, 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 blah. They're getting some bad advice, whatever she's going to say, right? Well, everything she's saying, and I need to be smart enough to not just listen to what she's saying, but to remember what she's saying and then turn it around and say, well, okay, that's the problem. So I actually have the solution to that. And she's going to go, oh my gosh, awesome, right? Which is our software and $100,000, 45 minutes without spending a dollar on marketing or advertising. But I say to Lucy at the chamber, look, I pay $1,000 per referral. So you obviously know lots of business over the last X amount of time. So I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I would like to pay you for the first one up front. And I'm going to leave it to you. I don't have a relationship with the chamber. I don't want a relationship with the chamber. The chairman of the board is a business, whatever it is, right? And it's not, Lucy, I like you. You're the person that I bought the membership from, or whatever. You're the person I got the relationship with. So if you want to tell the chamber that I gave you $1,000 for a referral, that's going to be left up to you, but no one will ever know from me. And by the way, Lucy, anybody who I work with that you refer, I will offer a money back guarantee, because a concern for you is that what if you recommend me and then I don't do a bang up job? Okay, well, that's never going to be a problem. So anyway, so that's what I do. So I bought an ideal client. And yes, now you think, but what if Lucy doesn't send a client? Of course, I've asked her, Lucy, do you know a few people you could send my way? She's like, oh my gosh, I've got a few people in mind. Absolutely. So I say, well, look, tell you what, let's do this. But what I like to do is I'd like to buy the first one up front just to show you that I'm serious. Whereas everybody else is too timid to do that. And all of a sudden, Lucy sees that, look, you're for real. And then I would also, there's a local newspaper, there's a local magazine, there's a local coupon book, there's a local online directory, there's a local billboard company. I mean, it's just, if you let your spidey senses go to people operating B2B, I would also go to the guy who sells advertising and does a good job. And I do the exact same thing. I kind of sit him down, buy the guy lunch. I want to get to understand, what your magazine does, what your coupon book does, what your billboard company does. And then just say to the guy, look, this is what I'd be willing to do. And again, when you introduce me to somebody, I will find them $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. And if said with some mojo and set up properly, how does the guy say no to that? How does that not sound like a good idea, right? And then if you formalize it, it said, okay, so when the guy sells an ad, and let's say that the ads that he's selling sell for $2,000, okay? Well, when the guy buys a $4,000 ad instead of a $2,000 ad, he can throw you in as a bonus where you'll sit with him. You'll find them $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. So anyway, so this is what I mean by buying ideal clients. I go to the accountant. Most people sit with the accountant and they say, send, you got this database, send everybody an email, and I'm going to run a webinar, or I'm going to run a presentation. Anybody who comes and buys, I'm going to pay you, from whoever who buys, which the accountant very seldom goes for that. And FYI, I've talked about that in the past. The bottom line is I go to the accountant and I say, look, why don't I pay you for some advertising on your website? But in actuality, what I'd like it to be is an exchange for you to send me a few people that I can help them, with the culture in their company and with the rules that we just talked about. And creating an upsell, creating a downsell, creating a proper upfront offer, etc. Right? And by the way, the accountant may or may not go for that, but this is what I mean by buying ideal clients. And Road Dog, let me just another here's a little acid test. Here's something that everybody listening to should steal, and you should all do this. Here's the acid test for an employee, or let's say a lead generator, a new salesperson. Okay. Well, I go to Lucy, and what I do is I hire her. So she's been working at the chamber for X amount of time, right? Like, it doesn't take 24 hours. Like, she's got some extra time. She's got 2 hours before work and 2 hours after work. So what if you what if you hired Lucy to work for you? Okay. And you paid her, let's call it $2,000 a month. But the acid test is that, can Lucy send you 2 clients, say in the first 2 weeks? That first week would be better. But let's just can she get you 2 completed clients in the first 2 weeks? And I'll tell you, if Lucy's any good at what she does, and she's been working at the chamber for the last 5 years, and she sold X thousands of memberships, she's going to be able to send you clients immediately. And then think of the guy that's been selling advertising. Same thing. You don't need to hire your staff. They don't need to work with you exclusively. Right. So that could be an acid test. And what I just gave you is a home run on freaking steroids. But you hire somebody to come work for you on a part-time basis. But instead of hiring somebody out of the blue who thinks they might be good at the phone, hire somebody who's got a proven track record and a network, and all kinds of contacts. So anyways, and I could go on, but just think anybody B2B, a promotional company, somebody selling mugs and T-shirts and golf balls, same thing, right? And the other thing is here, Road Dog, what do we ask here? Where do you spend money when you're going to get started? Okay, well, that's one thing, but I would go back to business model, okay, where we have talked about this. I don't think we haven't talked about it for quite a while, but we've talked about it lots on the podcast. And it's just, they need to have a proper business model, right? And one question, and it's more complex than this, but this would comfortably nail it down that they're on the right track or not. But where is the recurring revenue, right? If there's no recurring revenue, you don't have a business. And in our world, Road Dog, I'll meet somebody and I'm like, hey, you're a coach. And they're like, yeah, I'm a career coach. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, what do you mean? I mean, okay, you're a career coach. What, again, first principles. What does a career coach do? They help you get a career. Well, when you get the job, when you get the promotion, what happens? You solve their problem and you lose them as a client. So your business model is built, and then the better you get at it and the quicker you could solve the problem, the quicker you lose the client in a roundabout way. I'll let you guess as to whether or not that is a successful business model. Or another example would be a grief coach, right? So someone's had, got COVID, and this is becoming more popular. People going through tough times and people passing away, which, again, that's terrible. And I think a grief coach is a great idea, but because I think it's a great idea, doesn't mean that it's a good business model, because again, you get me out of grief, and what happens? You lose me as a client. And then life coaching would fall into this. Again, life coaches don't, if there's a life coach listening, and we have lots of them, I always talk to a life coach and I say this, your ideal clients are business owners. And they're like, yeah, maybe. And I go, and let's assume they've made some real money and they've been at this for 2 years. I go, list your 3 top clients, write them down. I go, all 3 were business owners, yes or no? And they go, oh, wow, how did you know that? Okay, Tony Robbins is the world's highest paid life coach. 95% of his clients are all business owners, right? So anyway, so you need to have a proper business model. Or a way that I like to describe this is you could sell dogs, or you could sell dog food. And let me tell you that dog food is a business you can exit for 7 figures and make a few $1 million. Selling dogs is a promotion, not a company. Think of selling swimming pools, right? So do you want to sell swimming pools, or do you want to maintain the pool and sell chlorine? Well, the answer is everybody wants the home run of selling the swimming pool, but there's a lot more money in chemicals and chlorine and servicing pools than there will ever be in building swimming pools. And by the way, you should do both. You should sell the dogs and the dog food. You should build the pool and service the pool in a perfect world. But if chose, one to the other, you're going to the recurring revenue all day long and twice on Sunday, right? So it's the guy who wants to flip houses, right? You introduce me to a guy who flips houses, and I'll introduce you to somebody who's either got caught with their pants down or is going to get caught with their pants down, right? And yes, of course, there's anomalies. I don't deal in anomalies. I deal in percentages, and let's just see how it shakes out, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not. But so again, do you want to flip houses or do you want to buy and hold? Well, again, recurring revenue is where all the money is. You've got Road Dog, in sum, right? We're talking about, we're going to start a company, whether it be a coaching business or, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, right? The dentist, the chiropractor, whatever you're going to start, you've got to train yourself to think in 10-year blocks. And that's a little bit rich for most, and understandably, at an absolute bleeding minimum, you've got to think in 1-year blocks, ideally 3-year blocks, and then stretching your mind to be thinking in 10-year blocks. And if you look at Amazon and you look at Elon Musk and these types of guys, and wonder how the heck, how do they do it and what do they do, yada, yada, yada. They just think long-term, delayed gratification on steroids. In fact, in sum and in closing, Rhoda, we got one of our awesome clients. His name's Greg. He's probably listening here. He is lined up. He's the guy who listens, right? We say jump. He says how high. He doesn't ask why. He just jumps. So he's doing live events very successfully, right? So he's lined up. Instead of doing lining up one event, he lined up 10 events, right? And then he's all the wheels are in motion to do. And then, he was asking some other questions back and forth. And I said to him, and remember, the success of this, okay, in 12 months time will be, did you follow through and run events consistently for an entire 12-month period? Or did you get started? Did you crush it? Did you get a huge spike like the roller coaster and then come crashing down and then not do one and then think, oh, I better get those events going again and then crash? It's just, you got to be really, really consistent over, in this instance that I'm describing here, over 12 months. And what I said to him, and what I say to anybody listening, is if you want to be a successful business coach, the consistency of just day in, day out, constant lead, the 3 baskets, constant lead gen, constant conversion. So those are your sales appointments. And then third, constant concentration on the fulfillment, right? Remember, Jim Carrey is Jim Carrey because he's the best actor, not because he went to the most auditions, because he's the best actor. And the mistake that actors make is they spend too much time auditioning and not enough time in acting school, right? Like not honing their craft. So not only do you got to be able to do the events and convert the clients, but you got to be a crushing coach and be able to do, some of the stuff that we're describing here, like, culture. Like, well, I don't know anything about culture. I get it, but that doesn't give you a pass. You need to, if your client doesn't, as it grows and they build and they don't build culture into it, they're not going to have a lot of lasting success, right? So you've got to be able to, hone your craft or bring in an expert on the topic, right? Because the bottom line is that you got to be the best, right? You got to make sure you got to be a needle mover for your clients. So anyway, I went on a riff there, Road Dog, but it's the consistency over 12 months at a minimum, but more to the point, 3 years. Like again, Greg, if he runs these events for 3 years, guys, do you need to know anything else about Greg other than he ran consistent events at the chamber with 5 to 10 people around a boardroom table where he shifted these people. He taught them a lot. He understood the value of entertainment. So not only like Road Dog, when you and I did the event, right? When we got people up, we got people dancing, we got music, I'm telling jokes, you're telling jokes, we're back and forth. They're like, these two guys are making fun of one another. It was just it's a lot of fun, right? Like if Greg continues to do it, the first event, he's going to be like, get people up dancing or get people laughing or, I'm not a stand-up comic. When he's done it 50, 100, 200 times, it gets easier. You know, Tony Robbins has run, if you go to UPW and you see that presentation, if you literally could watch it 15 years ago and watch it today, and of course it's advanced and it's a little bit different, but conceptually speaking, it's the same damn thing, right? Like, so he's had the same presentation going for, you know, a few decades. So you'll get significantly better at it. So Road Dog, my way of saying, you got to have that staying power. The mistake that coaches make is, you know, they get started, they have success, they don't have success, and then they gauge whether or not they're going to keep going. You know what I mean? And it's just like, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. If you want to be a player, if you want to be legit, if you want to be that go-to, look, okay, we started Road Dog today with there's a price to be paid for all this money being printed. Okay, I'm not an economics major, and I'm not pretending to be, you know, the next great economist. Let me just tell you that there's a common sense corner here, and there's a price to be paid for it. Okay, so what's the price to be paid? Is it's like a downturn in the economy. Well, during a downturn in the economy, people start looking for experts. People start looking for some help. Well, if you get your events going now, and then in 3 years' time, you're the guy or the gal that has the local event at the chamber every 2 weeks, and you invite people in, and the girls at the chamber know it, and then the local BNI guys know it, and then, you know, people have come and you do a great job, and they're like, wow, you're going to be the go-to when shit goes sideways. You're going to be the go-to guy or gal, right? But what you're probably going to do is you're going to wait until then to get the damn thing started. So I don't know, Road Dog, a little bit of a riff there, but, you know, you got to be thinking in, you know, a lot more than, you know, day to day, hour to hour, week to week type blocks. You got to be thinking in 1, 3, 10-year blocks, and blow up the boats, get those presentations going, or just start moving, or, you know, it's picking up the phone, or it's the Facebook strategy, it's the Instagram strategy, it's the LinkedIn strategy, but get consistent as hell and get her going. What do you think, Road Dog? Did that help?
Yeah, well, it's funny because here I'm gonna blow your mind, because I look at it this way, right? Short-term thinking versus long-term vision. And I read a great quote this last week, and it says, if you don't know exactly who you want to be and what you want to be doing in 5 years, you're already doing it. I just think
say that again. I love it. Hang on, say it again.
If you don't know exactly who you want to be and what you want to be doing in 5 years, you're already doing it.
Oh, I love it. So what you're saying is, if I don't have a vision for my future is going to look exactly as I do now. Correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Road Dog. You philosophical son of a gun, you. Dang, I like it.
There it is, bud.
I like it.
There it is.
Boom.
Listen,
That's really good.
I'm more than just big muscles and a pretty face, big shoots. This is how it works around here. All right. All right. So you want to close us out? What's the one thing, bud? What's the one thing that they can pull from today's episode and apply to their life, to their business? What do you think?
I think where we start, I get it again. I laid in bed for a few days here. Got the old man flu, and guys, habits, just a little bit like what Road Dog just said. I want you to take some time. It's just, rather than paint this beautiful picture, just again, think inverse, right? Like, rather than painting a great life, you'd be better to write down what a shitty life would look like for you. Be a million times more motivating. I think, and little, you know, some realization that I have had over the last week is just that, like, my life is just a series of habits, and your life is just a series of habits. So really, really, really good news is that if we break down those habits, and then we go to the 3, quote unquote, the most harmful or the 3 worst habits you have, and then you work to eliminate, and I think eliminating one just made sense to me, right? Try to eliminate all of them. I think that's going to be a little more than most people can bite initially, because once you feel the rewards of stopping that one habit, I think that you'll be in a real hurry to stop the second and the third on your list. But identify what those 3 bad habits are, and I think as a framework, understanding that you're just a bunch of habits. Like that was my because I couldn't. My routine was just freaking busted. Right, I was feeling like crap, and so I think that if you go to your 3 worst habits and you endeavor to eliminate one of them, I think you will have done something possibly very special for yourself and your family, maybe your future. And by the way, picking up the phone and, filling that event that I talked about earlier at the local Chamber of Commerce, if that became a habit, like every day you carve out 2 hours in the morning, uninterrupted, non-negotiable. Every day you make phone calls, send out private messages, send out emails, connect with people, to put 5 to 10 people in a boardroom at the chamber, every second Tuesday. I think that habit would be game changing. But my question is, what are the habits that you currently have that don't allow you to do that? Right? Because I guarantee that habit, that is not scheduled on your, if I look at your calendar, I'm not going to see it. Right. And then the question is, what is there? And could that be a habit that you eliminate? So anyways, Road Dog, there you go, bud. I think understanding habits, man, and then eliminating a worst one, I think would serve people at a high level. Shoots. What do you think?
Totally agree. Jordan Peterson, actually, I saw a quote that he talks about that too. He said, I think it's like once a month. If once a month you just sat at the end of your bed and you asked yourself, what absolutely stupid thing am I doing that's holding me back and just is toxic in my life? And you actually wanted to know the answer, because we pussyfoot around this stuff, don't we? Like we just sort of assume ourselves. But if you actually were honest with yourself on that and you changed it, love it, dude. Absolutely love it. Listen, everybody, thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, the COVID survivor, King Karl himself. And if you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or you just want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or some that you think might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd love it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and all of those services give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. We will catch you in the next episode. Remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra $1 on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.